Hi, my name is Joey Bunag. I'm 16 and I'm from Washington, D.C. Today, I'll be giving a conference talk that uses economic and environmental metrics to determine when it would be most logical for companies to recycle plastic or metal within technology products. This is the table of contents that we'll be using for my presentation. First, we'll start with my research question, then we'll transition into my background and methodology. From there, we'll look at my analysis and my discussion, and lastly, we'll look at my conclusion. With rising sea levels and increasingly hotter global temperatures, the effects of climate change are more palpable than ever before. As a result, sustainability has become a larger point of consideration for many companies in terms of their environmental impact. Governments and policies have become more geared towards promoting sustainability in order to address climate change. Within the technology industry, this has been done through the recycling of materials. Technology companies often recycle metal or plastic, but not both. Noticing this discrepancy, this naturally led to my research question of when is it most logical for companies to recycle plastic or metal? To start, we'll look at the concept of eco-design. Eco-design is a part of the larger idea known as a circular economy, which is a framework that works to gear economies to become more sustainable. Eco-design is the product side of this system. It focuses on designing products in such a way that they are sustainable and meet the three factors of sustainability: the environment, the economy, and social considerations. Naturally, eco-design goes hand in hand with recycling because one of the easiest ways to implement eco-design within products is to use recycled materials. Here we have our first company that uses metal recycling. Fairphone is a Dutch phone company, and they're known for using metal recycling within their products. Fairphone recycles metals like copper and tin, and 60% of their phones are recycled. Additionally, the recycling process includes smelting, dismantling, and shredding, which are standard procedures for metal recycling processes. Next up, we have the plastic recycling companies, which are laptop companies like Acer and Logitech. The Acer Aspire Vero uses 40% post-consumer recycled plastic, and the Logitech Brio 300 webcam uses 48% post-consumer recycled plastic. Other companies have attempted to use recycled plastic within their products within the past, such as the PowerMate Eco, which was released in the early 2000s but taken off the market due to low sales. My main methods for this research include qualitative analysis and environmental accounting. The main sites that I used were ScienceDirect, ResearchGate, the Environmental Protection Agency, and Google Scholars. When I started, my initial keywords were general. They included phrases like the circular economy and sustainability. However, as my research came along, my keywords grew more specific. They included phrases like metal recycling costs and plastic recycling carbon footprint. Once I obtained my numbers, I converted them into my desired units, which were per ton, and in the case of energy, kilojoules per ton. These tables summarize the environmental impact of each recycling strategy. As you can see, metal recycling saves about 3.34 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent for each ton of metal recycled, while plastic only saves about 2 to 2.13 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent for each ton of plastic recycled. As a short disclaimer, there are two different methods for plastic recycling, chemical and mechanical, which is why you see two different values here. From an energy standpoint, metal recycling saves about 60 million kilojoules per ton of metal recycled, but plastic recycling only saves about 40 million kilojoules for each ton of plastic recycled. This table summarizes the financial impact of each recycling strategy. Here, the average marginal cost of recycling 1 ton of metal is $200, while the equivalent cost for plastic recycling methods range from $6,000 to $857,000. The average fixed technology cost for metal recycling is $125,000, while the equivalent cost for plastic ranged from about $3 million to about $33 million. As you can see, the difference in costs between the two methods is staggering, so much so that you can barely even see the cost for metal recycling. In order to analyze these strategies, I analyzed the business cases for each recycling choice. I used two axes of comparison, the condition and the material. So we'll be looking at the business cases for recycled metal, recycled plastic, newly produced metal, and newly produced plastic. Studies have shown that recycled plastic positively impacts 86% of consumer purchases and that 93% of consumers are satisfied with products that have recycled plastic. So it would be reasonable to assume that using recycled plastic would be most logical for companies who want to promote their brand and increase consumer loyalty. On the other hand, recycled metal saves about 56 to 68% more carbon than plastic recycling methods, and it is also much cheaper. Marginal costs for metal recycling are 90 to 99% cheaper, and fixed costs are 98 to 99.7% cheaper. So it would be reasonable to assume that metal recycling would be more logical for companies who care more about cost and environmental impact. Using newly produced plastics would be more logical for companies who want to have cheap marginal costs and avoid the fixed costs of plastic recycling. And similarly, using newly produced metals would be most logical for companies who want to avoid fixed costs of metal recycling, and it would be beneficial for products with non-recyclable metals, like uranium. I also analyzed these choices within a socially optimal environment. A socially optimal environment is one where companies can afford any recycling technology and all companies and consumers internalize environmental costs. Within such a world, the most common choice would be metal recycling. This is because of its high environmental benefits and its low costs. Well, if metal recycling is so good, then why haven't we heard more about it? This is because of consumer misinformation and a lack of accountability. Because of the many years of advertising that back plastic recycling, many consumers have been led to believe that plastic recycling is the most sustainable method of recycling out there, even if better alternatives like metal recycling exist. Additionally, a lack of accountability can also be to blame. Because of a lack of vehicles like a national carbon tax, companies have no incentive to further invest in sustainability or move towards more sustainable practices, causing them to stick with plastic recycling methods. The effects of these obstacles can most clearly be seen through the predicted sizes of metal and plastic recycling markets. The metal recycling market is projected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 5.8% from now until 2032. And likewise, the plastic recycling market is projected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 9.3%. As you can see, the plastic recycling market is supposed to skyrocket, while the metal recycling market, not so much. As I mentioned before, one of the main obstacles towards a socially optimal world is a lack of accountability and its subsequent lack of incentive. Policies that I think could help with this are a national carbon tax, tax deductions, and tax credits. By providing financial repercussions for unsustainable practices and financial benefits for sustainable practices, I believe that companies would have enough incentive to further invest in sustainability and make the shift towards more sustainable practices like metal recycling. Within this presentation, I talked about how metal recycling is more effective for technology products in a socially optimal world. One of my main implications is that metal recycling is more effective overall for other industries as well. Other industries that may benefit from metal recycling include the toy and automobile industry, since they both use plastic and metal and may be faced with a similar choice. Another one of my implications is that metal recycling could become the next mainstream recycling method because of its high environmental benefits and low costs. I think that further research on this topic could be done on how to encourage more metal recycling, how to better inform consumers about metal recycling, and more effective and affordable methods of plastic recycling. Although plastic recycling is not as effective as metal recycling, it is still important since some products, like plastic water bottles, are only made out of plastic. Therefore, I think that by researching more effective and affordable methods of plastic recycling, we can ensure that plastic recycling operates at optimal efficiency when we do choose to use it. To sum up everything we went over, climate change has led to sustainability, which in turn has led to eco-design and recycling. Recycling varies for technology companies, as companies choose to either recycle plastic or metal. Throughout my presentation, we answered our research question. Each material has their own logical situation. Metal recycling would be most logical for companies who care about cost and environmental impact, while plastic recycling would be most logical for companies who care about branding and increasing consumer loyalty. Within a socially optimal setting, metal recycling would be more common. However, obstacles to such a world include consumer misinformation and the lack of accountability. The main implications for my research is that metal recycling could be more effective overall for other industries, and that it could be the next mainstream recycling method. Further research that I think should be done on this topic includes encouragement on metal recycling, how to better inform consumers on metal recycling, and on better recycling methods for plastic. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at joey_bunag@yahoo.com. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for your time.